Alright, so today I made the fatal mistake of going on Facebook Marketplace and I found a bike that I've never actually seen come available on the market before. And then I made the audacious move of contacting the seller. And now I'm gonna go look at this bike because it's something I really want, something I really don't need. And yeah, one more thing to maintain. But that's the negative side about it. The positive side is it's ridiculously cool. It encompasses 80s MotoGP, European IA motorsport, motorcycle. It's just a cool factor. Really, it's an 80s bike that I've always wanted. So we're gonna go ride over and check out this moto because I've never actually seen one in person, let alone in the United States, let alone for sale for a fairly reasonable price. So yeah, I might be ending up with another motorcycle to the collection, but it's really cool. And some of you might recognize this bike. It's a two-stroke. I'll give you that hint. I've never actually seen one in person, so when this, when this popped up, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So I had an 87 FCR 1000, kind of the same paint scheme, and this is liquid cooled, right?
Yeah. It's liquid cooled, it's got the Yamaha power valve system on it that
Wow.
and it's got two little teeny flat slide carburetors in it.
Are they Mikuni's?
They're either Mikuni's or Kians, I don't know. And it feeds, the carbs go directly into the crankcase instead of into the back of the cylinder.
Do this have reeds? Is it a reed motor?
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've had it apart.
Because the early ones were piston port, I thought. And, oh my gosh, this is the primer and the choke. So why this appealed to me is because 80s, when you had MotoGP and then you had Isle of Man, a lot of the guys were still running two-strokes. And when you mentioned the 500 Gamma, I mean, I've never even seen one of those in person. I mean, what did one of those end up selling for? What was he asking on one?
Oh, I don't know. One of them was yellow. It was really rough, and I think that went for about 15, and then the other one was blue and white. It was pretty nice, and I think that one went in the upper 20s.
He's done a wonderful job on this.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now that it needs three things right now. The horn doesn't work.
Okay.
The brake light from the front brake light switch doesn't work.
Okay.
And there's a couple of wires. I just haven't taken the time to get into it. And I had a guy test ride it the other day, and it looks like the needle and seat maybe isn't sealing in the right carburetor.
Just rough idle or leaking?
It was leaking fuel, and it wanted to stall out.
Okay.
But I've got a set of, I ordered a set of rebuild kits. They should be here this week.
Oh my gosh, even the suspension is...
Yeah, and I've got this giant tub of parts right here. If you want to look here. Get
literally
extra forks, all kinds of cables. I got an extra set of jugs.
So these are the cylinders. Oh, I had it's the... look how little they are. This stuff's fascinating to me because you never get to really see the internals of one of these,
right?
Let alone spares.
Shop manual.
You have a manual for it?
Yeah. And then I get engine gasket, gasket set.
So did these parts come with this bike, or like did you find?
The guy up in Netherlands had a bunch of parts, and he said just take everything I've got. So I did.
What made you want this?
Huh?
Well, I see you have a bunch of other good two-stroke choices. I mean, is that RD350? Is that a Daytona Special?
Yeah, it is.
All right. Well, now I understand.
And that's a RZ350.
So the last one I saw one of those was the Kenny Roberts edition, in the yellow but I like
Yellow
this
and
color.
black. This has got the Kenny Roberts. I don't know if they really offered the Kenny Roberts in the red and white and blue, but
This is gorgeous.
this thing's so much fun to ride.
Do you ride it often still?
Now and then.
So that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Everybody's all of them. They just sit.
I rode it up to Johnstown with a buddy for a coffee and a donut on a Sunday morning.
So the secret to longevity on these is when you're going down a big hill on the highway, do not keep the throttle all the way closed. Partially, even if it's just partially open, because it cuts off the lubrication. That's why everybody would seize these up. They'd be going 90 and they'd be going over a hill and the throttle would be off and there's no lubrication getting to the main bearings because the throttle will be completely closed. Unless this has the oil injection.
Well, yeah, the pumps. Oh, the throttle's closed, so you're not feeding anything. Yeah, because the pump's still spinning.
I knew so many friends that'd be like, the bike would run like an absolute beauty, and then they'd be coming over the hill, a crescent, and they go on the deceleration for a long period of time, and then it would just lock up.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a trick. I don't know if that's actually viable, but
both these bikes, I put a little oil in the tank as well.
that's smart.
I kind of run about 50 to 1 in the tank plus the oil injection. And I haven't fouled the plug yet, so.
Beautiful. And this is the Daytonas.
Yeah, I'm waiting on exhaust. It's got 1,500 miles on it. I had to go to Montana to get it. It had been dropped on this side, so it dinged up the pipe, it broke the tack. It took me I bet it took me a year to find the correct tack for it.
You never see these.
Well, they only made them the 1 year.
Yeah, so my cylinder head's totally different. Well, I have an R5, so I have the piston port non-read.
Okay.
But I
had an RD 400, and this is the last year they made them when they went to the one-piece head.
What year is this?
79.
Okay. With the disc brakes.
I had a 77 RD 400, and it had the individual heads on it. But I've been looking for I got a good left side, and I've got everything. I need a right side muffler, and I haven't come across it. I got a set of chambers coming for it that I'm going to put on it for blasting around.
This is beautiful.
And yeah, it turned out pretty nice.
Wow.
But I'm not really a sport bike riding position kind of guy anymore.
I totally get that. I just got rid of my Ducati 999 because it was killing my wrists. And but this is like a bike you go ride to coffee on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Why is it smoking? And why does it make that noise?" And they're like, "You don't understand," but then some will.
Yeah. And the people who understand, I mean, when I had my RD, it had some pretty loud chamber. It had DG pipes on it.
Wow.
And yeah, those are factory chambers on them.
And they're in great shape. They're usually smashed. I mean, well,
pretty good shape.
Well, is it possible to hear it fire up?
You want to start it?
Well, I'll let you first just to see if you have any tricks or.
No, it's
I love this. It's like kickstart only.
Turn
Yet
the
it's a
choke
sport
on.
bike. Okay.
And then you can hear the power valve cycle.
So it has an electronic power valve.
Yeah. Well, it's also cable operated. The cables go into the one side.
Okay.
And when you first start it up, it'll rotate back and forth. It'll open and close. And there's you can adjust the cables to adjust the timing marks on it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because there's kind of a procedure you go through.
you, besides the turn signals, you said the horn doesn't work?
The horn, yeah. The turn signals work.
Oh, the turn signals do work. Okay. And what is the red line on this? 10?
Yeah, right at 10. And it really, I mean, its happy zone is between 6 and 10.
And, you know, have you ever been in any, like, traffic or anything where, has the temperature ever, does it get hot on you at all?
I haven't ridden it real far, but
Yeah.
it's never got, it's got maybe halfway up.
Halfway up. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's no electric fan, no nothing rolling through that, pulling air through there if you're...
Yeah, I don't think that...
I always wondered that. Yeah, it's
Not
just
a-
one big radiator.
Yeah. And I have a spare radiator in the parts box there, I think.
This is incredible. Great.
You know, I took everything apart.
Wow.
I cleaned everything, anything that was broken or needed attention. I mean, I didn't put fork seals in it, but I don't think they were leaking.
No, yeah.
You know, I didn't rebuild the rear shock or anything like that, but I took it all apart, completely cleaned the fuel system. I've got a picture of the inside of the tank. It's like mint. There's no rust at all.
I just cannot believe how tall the gearing is. I mean, I can't imagine doing 100 and a quarter in this.
Well, they were kind of a mini Moto GP bike.
Yeah, they were. And it sounds so good. Like I love seeing you look behind you and see the little trail of
little
smoke.
wisp of smoke.
Like people would never expect that. And the fact that it's kickstart only, and was the Gamma, was that electric or was that kickstart only
That
too?
was kickstart only, and it had 4 carburetors. They were side draft. They were both 2 on this side and 2 on that side.
Oh my gosh.
And then 4 pipes coming out the back was pretty cool.
So is it a 3-cylinder or 4-cylinder?
4-cylinder.
500.
Yeah.
That had to be ridiculously fast.
That's what I think Kenny Roberts raced those back in the day, you know, when they were beating all the bigger thumpers, you know.
So, did you have a Colorado title for this?
Yeah. And it's a 17-digit VIN because this one's got the shorter VIN, but by 88, all the bikes were 17-digit VINs, so they took this number from the frame,
Okay.
and then there's a data plate with the 2MA on it there, and they combined those two and made a 17-digit VIN. And I took it to like Highway Patrol and had them look at it, and they said, no, that's fine.
Wow. What do you think the hardest part so far was to find for this?
The airbox took me a little while to find that,
The airbox.
but it's there. I mean,
It's the factory airbox?
Yep.
Or-
oh yeah, I want to show you something.
Is that the oil injection right there?
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
oil tank, right, and
gosh.
there's the back end of the airbox right there. These side covers
Okay.
had 2 tabs, 2 screws to hold them in. It's got the tabs on the side that just push in,
Okay.
but then it had screws to lock it in back here. 2 of them were busted and we couldn't repair them.
Okay.
So we fabricated a little bracket for the tailpiece. But if you want to take the side cover off, remember to take this off because there's 2 screws under it. If you try and pull it off, you'll break that tab.
Okay. Okay.
So.
And the oil injection on this still works?
Yeah.
It does?
Yeah. Yeah, I bled the pump and everything when I first set it up. I had to get this piece reupholstered. This is original. It's never been reupholstered, but this was pretty ratty, and it took us a while to match the vinyl. I had to buy like a big chunk of vinyl just to get that one little piece to get that redone. And then the bodywork, it had some cracks in it. They've all been repaired. The front fender actually had, the tire had worn a hole in the back of the fender because it sat funny, and I don't, when I looked at the guy's other parts bike, it had the same thing. So
oh geez, I want this bike so bad now. It's I hate this. Man, Facebook Marketplace is a blessing and a curse, because I was literally completely content on what I had in my collection, and then this popped up, and the owner is absolutely amazing, and he let me take it out for a spin, and hearing it run, and the 2-stroke, and the smell of the 2-stroke oil, and the power band, it literally had nothing. And unfortunately I couldn't open it up. I want to respect the owner and his bike. He was nice enough to let me take it out, so I didn't go wide open or any of that, and obviously I couldn't get a lot of video of it being one-handed. But it was everything I expected and more. So if you're wondering what this bike was, if you didn't get a gist of it earlier, it's a 1988 Yamaha TZR 250. It is specialized in the 80s when MotoGP and a lot of the superbike racing was still 2-stroke based. What I mean by that is they had multiple CC classes, 125, 250, 500, and then the open class. And unfortunately, I don't know a lot of the class names for it. But the 80s were a pretty magical era with the 2-strokes. I find that that was almost the pinnacle of 2-strokes. And these TZRs, well, rules stated that the manufacturer had to produce some street legal variant of the bike that they were going to race in the series. So Yamaha's like, okay, we want to dominate the 250 class. Let's do a TZR 250 street legal version. So that's exactly what this bike is. So in 88, this bike came out to the general public. US market never really got these. You had to import these specifically. It's either Canadian, there's a bunch in Australia and a bunch in Europe. But why this bike is so rare is because you never really saw it in the US market. You couldn't go down to your Yamaha dealership and say, I want a TZR 250. This bike's fascinating because it's a liquid cooled 2-stroke twin cylinder. It's a 6-speed manual. And one thing that I was absolutely blown away by was the how tall the gearing was. And I didn't get it on video. Sorry, I just didn't have the ability to, and I wanted to keep the time riding it short as it's not my bike. But the 6th gear at 50 miles an hour or whatever, it was at like 2,600 RPM, and the red line's 10,000. So, and the power band didn't really, I mean, this is a bad example because this isn't the bike, but the power band didn't start till like 6, and the red line's 10,000. So that gave you a really good perspective of like, there's nothing, and then it just exploded with power. And I opened it up, I got it to about 7 and 75, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually much quicker than I thought a 250 would be. I would love to open one up on the track and really just get in the power band and just feel the bike out, because why this bike is special is handling. It was much smaller than your typical super bike. Its power to weight ratio and its nimbleness. This is a bike that would be really superior in turns, exiting out of the turns, and its braking ability, being that it's so light. And it's just one of those bikes that, of course, you can go out, get a 1,000cc bike, and it's just going to be brute force in a straight line. But I would not be surprised if this TZR 250 would spank a lot of 1000s today in the turns, because of just how light it is, how nimble, and that 2-stroke is a really magical power unit. So yeah, he is selling it, and I am seriously considering buying it. Do I need it? No. But riding it really ruined me, and it was better than I expected it would ride, and it sounded better than I expected it would sound. Everything, and it was in person much cleaner than I expected. So that's that. At least if you ever wonder what TZR 250 looks like from 1988, there you go. Check out that whole series, lineage of 80s super bikes and all the CC classes, because they're absolutely just a special era of motorcycle racing. You know, if you wanted even more insane, is the next series up from that was the Yamaha 500 Gamma, which was a 4-cylinder, 2-stroke powerhouse widowmaker is what I call them. And I don't know, I could talk about this stuff for hours. I just love motorsport history, and this is one of those icons that you never really see in the US market, and it's very cool, and people either love it or they're like, something's wrong with your bike because it's smoking. It's a 2-stroke life. So thanks for watching. On to the next.